have been infected with COVID-19 in the state and says it will be analyzing the results over the next few weeks.
The number of deaths in Massachusetts from coronavirus are continuing to climb. State officials there say 57 new deaths from the virus were confirmed yesterday, along with more than 400 new positive tests. The number of deaths from coronavirus in Massachusetts is approaching 6,500. The number of people hospitalized has now dropped 40% since mid-April, but over 2,100 patients are still in state hospitals.
U.S. Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island's office is announcing a plan to send over $34 million in federal funding to help skilled nursing facilities in Rhode Island. Reed says the CARES Act money will go to help 71 such facilities. It will be for increased testing capacity, protective equipment, hiring more staff, and other coronavirus pandemic-related expenses.
Many retailers are reporting slow sales after being allowed to reopen for curbside pickup yesterday. While their hair salons, barbershops were very busy, customers have been slow to begin buying.
Good morning and welcome to Coffee and, the longest-running panel discussion show in American radio. To make a comment or ask a question to the panel, call 401-766-1240 or email at joe@onesocketradio.com. And now, let's join the Coffee and panel on ON 1240, WOON One Socket Radio.
I'm here on ON AM and FM. It's Wednesday morning. It's May 27th. Thanks for joining us this morning. My name is Joe Callahan, and let's see who's around the coffee and table today, either in person or over the phone. Melissa Smith from the St. Antoine community. Good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm here.
Excellent, excellent. Tim Draper's on the telephone as well from Navigant Credit Union. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, everyone.
Thanks for being there. John Ward, are you in studio?
I are in studio. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Tim. Good morning, Melissa. Good morning, Dave. Good morning, world.
Thanks for joining us this morning. It is time for a first message from the St. Antoine community. So, Melissa Smith, you're up first with a first message. Go right ahead.
Thank you. So, St. Antoine community, we are located in North Smithfield at the corner of 400 Mendon and 10 Rhodes Avenue. On our campus, we've got 2 buildings with 4 levels of care. We offer assisted living, rehabilitative services, secured memory care, and a long-term skilled nursing supportive service. In our first building, which is the Villa, and that is located at 400 Mendon Road, it's our 76-apartment assisted living facility. In that building, we offer assisted living apartments in 3 styles: studio, 1-bedroom, and 2-bedroom, as well as an 8-resident memory care unit. And in our other building, St. Antoine Residence, which is located at the 10 Rhodes Avenue address, it is our 260-bed skilled long-term care facility and short-term rehabilitative facility. Inside, we have our Easy Street Rehab Center, as well as a secured memory unit and our private hospice suite. St. Antoine community feels like home. It's welcoming to all, so if you have not been up to visit us on our property, I welcome you to come up, give me a call. I'd be happy to show you around. You can reach me at 767-3500. Just ask for Melissa Smith. Be happy to make an appointment and show you around.
Okay, Melissa, did you happen to have your outside barbecue that you wanted to have over Memorial Day weekend for the residents?
We had a modified version, but yes, we did.
Okay.
We did offer that on Monday, and from what I understand, it was a success. A little bit chilly. Did I say Monday? It was Sunday. I'm getting my days mixed up. I think it was on Sunday that they offered it, and they did have it out in the courtyard, and it wasn't the same normal setup that they normally offer, but it did go off well, and our residents did enjoy it.
That's good. Good to hear. So I'm glad it went well. Tim Draper was going to try to be in person in the studio today, but something came up. So you're going to shoot for it again next week, Tim?
We will certainly try to do it next weekend. A little snafu this morning.
Okay, very good.
I feel like I hear birds behind Tim. Are you outdoors by any chance, like on a patio, or it sounds lovely?
No, nope. I'm in the comfort of my living room at the moment, with the windows closed.
Where are the birds?
And probably the birds flying around my head.
I can't imagine you're hearing them from the station, but the window is open, and we did have the morning symphony this morning. a little more subdued now than it was at 5 a.m. Might be coming in on John's mic, but I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because I can't hear them.
So I'm
Has
the only
anyone
one...
bunked you on the head in a cartoon recently?
I don't know.
Well, they might be outside my window, but I'm not sure. I don't hear them. I don't see them. So.
Oh, it's a lovely addition to the show. Actually, I was enjoying it.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as you're enjoying it, Melissa, that's all that really matters. So. All right.
Have you lost your sense of taste?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, it's not that then.
All senses in check right now.
Okay.
It's not COVID-19, right? Is that what you were alluding to, John?
Yeah, that was what I was alluding to. It may be a symptom that we don't know of yet. You may have discovered something.
Dr. John is worried about it. I appreciate
I
it.
am.
All right. A couple of things going on nationwide. We have the man that was killed in Minneapolis by and the police officers that were involved have all been fired. So there was disruption, I guess, as you can say, overnight that took place in Minneapolis. And now the other story on our news service saying that maybe people aren't counting the number of COVID-19 cases correctly.
Gee, how could that be?
I just heard a report Florida stopped counting or stopped reporting it because of the errors they were making.
I guess it's a question of what you call an error. I mean, if somebody had a heart attack, they went to the hospital and they tested them out of necessity for COVID-19, and he was tested positive, and then he died, and they claimed it was COVID-19, but in fact it may have been the heart attack.
That's right. That's right.
And apparently the orders have been, and I know they did some sarcastic videos online about it and in social media, but it may be some truth to the fact that basically anybody that tests positive, if they die, no matter what they die from, it's COVID-19. And sarcastically, I say even up to a car accident. I mean, if you get hit by a bus and you happen to be tested positive, then you die of COVID-19. Because I think they want to enhance the statistics to make their sky is falling case. And it's not to diminish the importance of the problem. The problem is serious, but I think in retrospect, history will show this as a gross overreaction, not properly taking the time to identify the at-risk populations and protect them while still pretty much handling life as normally as possible. And by that I mean the senior citizens and the people with other issues, health issues that put them at higher risk.
Is it just a case of money, John? We need to report more COVID-19 cases, and we'll get more money for our facility? Is that our hospital? Is that what the deal is?
Could be. That's what seems to be keeping the printing presses going at the U.S. Bureau of Engraving and Printing, keeping the money pouring out. Keeps Congress feeling like they've solved the world's problems by printing more money. It does seem like the more cases you report, somehow you're going to find a way to get more federal money out of it.
Yeah. Okay. But I also heard the stories that, coming out of Florida. Also, they mentioned Arizona, and I'm not sure if California was mentioned in there. But they all either stopped reporting it or they're going with another entity to count for us. Instead of the state doing it, we'll let the federal government do it. Because everyone's coming up with different...
In Georgia, they said they were underreporting it, which is why they let the state, everybody back to normal, and now they're backtracking on that a little bit. I don't know what the point of underreporting it would be, other than to try and get your economy back.
Right. I think that may be part of it, is trying to get the economy back by creating the opportunity to go to state level 1, 2, or whatever the different levels are in each individual state to get commerce going.
And then you get the other states who are over-reporting it with, every hangnail death out there that's tested positive is all of a sudden COVID.
And then there's New York that decided, well, if you've got it, we're going to put you in a nice hot room full of other people with it, and let's see what happens there. And it didn't work out too well.
Nope.
No, not very well at all. All right. There was a story over the weekend, John, and I don't know if you saw it or not, but you're the guy that likes to head over to Lincoln Woods more than the rest of us.
Yes.
Did you actually get to go to Lincoln Woods this weekend after they opened up?
Yes, when we did what we always do, we walked the dog, and it looked exactly the same as it did before they closed it, except for some rocks moved to block pathways to certain areas. They limited the available parking spaces so that the numbers of people wouldn't be too massive. And at some point during the day, I guess their car count went too high, and they had to shut down the entrance and let one in as one went out. But when we went there to walk our dog around the 2.5-mile loop around the pond, it was pretty much like it's always been. We parked the car, we got out, we walked around the 2.5 miles with the dog. The people were there, lots of them, but they kept a respectable distance from one another. And as we would come up towards somebody on the same side of the road, either we would cross the road or they would cross the road, and everything worked out fine. We all acted like adults, contrary to what you may think listening to some of the other people doing their broadcasts that try to make it seem as if people are all stupid and need to be restricted to their homes, and not this station, but other stations. We were all adults, and it worked out great.
Okay, because I heard Channel 6 run a story that there was a situation that took place there.
There was?
After they closed, they had to, like you said, they had to close down cars letting in because they hit their capacity, and one person wasn't happy about that, but they were waiting, and then another car came along, and they let that person in. Come to find out that person had reservations to go horseback riding.
Ah, yes, they probably blocked the entrance before the horse riding facility.
Yeah. But that made the first person angry. And look, they're playing favorites, and so she went around the officer or whoever was doing their job there, and then they had to go track her down, and it got heated.
As you might expect. It didn't help when you actually got there. They actually only had the one parking lot off of 146 that was available for parking, which is the first parking lot, and it probably holds, I don't know, maybe 100 cars. But then they blocked the road, so you couldn't get to the parking lots near the beach area. And there's probably parking spaces there for another couple of hundred cars. But it was empty except for the workers' cars, and so the park wasn't as crowded as it could have been. Those situations occur. It gets frustrating. I'll briefly share an experience I had where, and I'm not going to name names. I'm just going to say what happened to me is that I called a restaurant to do a takeout order over the weekend, and it was busy because the restaurants were opening, doing outdoor dining, and so they had a lot of balls in the air at the same time. And so I asked to place an order, and I was asked, could you please hold? And so I said, okay, and I wasn't put on hold. It's like somebody took a phone and put it down, and I could still hear everything else going on. And I listened as the person who I had been talking to was dealing with some reservations for people coming in for dining, as is according to the rules. But then they took 3 more takeout orders ahead of me. And so, as you might expect, I got a little frustrated and ended up not ordering dinner from that restaurant. And that was fine. I had an exchange of emails with the owner of the place and expressed my frustration as much at the time about the fact that this happened, but more so later to reiterate the point that you don't let somebody listen to you, ignore them while you're on hold. Just put me on hold so I don't hear anything, or listen to music so I don't know what you're actually, I'm sure, inadvertently doing to me by putting other people ahead of me. And I'm not saying anybody ever did anything intentionally. I'm sure it was just so hectic that somehow my phone call was overlooked, and full 5 or 6 minutes went by, and I had not, the person had not picked up my call again to take my order. It was very frustrating. So I can share the feelings of the person who was blocked from Lincoln Woods while watching another car go by without having enough information, really, to figure out what was going on.
Well, another thing I saw online, John, is, and you alluded to it, is you could only park in one parking lot.
Correct.
And someone else made the observation, it's like, why is that the situation? If we're able to spread out to other parking lots, then we're not on top of each other.
Well,
and wouldn't that a safer thing to do.
That's the part that I think is kind of ridiculous, because it really was sparse along the road. There was noticeably fewer people who were all respecting each other's distances. But before they closed the parks, there were many more people, but they were also respectfully keeping a safe distance from one another. So the only thing that changed is the number of people that they allowed into the park, and I frankly just don't see that as a necessity. Some people were wearing masks. We were carrying ours in case it got too close in a certain area, to just put the mask on and move by. I think this is where I think the state overreacts. It was just, there's plenty of room there. It's 2.5 miles. It's 600 acres of space. There were people out in the woods that were having a picnic at a table, even though no reservations were taken for the picnic areas. There were kids doing rock climbing, as they do every week there. People walking dogs, people jogging, people riding bikes, all of the same things they do every other week. It's just, they could have filled up the lots. Maybe they didn't, because they didn't want people going into the beach area. Though some people were on the beach, many were fishing, just sitting by the side of the lake fishing. There's a whole, there's just so much space. I think it's an overreaction, frankly.
Okay. We're going to take our first break on the Coffee Amp program. So, Melissa, it's time for a second message from the St. Antoine community.
Yeah, so I feel like during times like this, which are super unique, obviously, that's all we talk about week after week together, communication is key. It's important that we are in as much contact as we can be with our family, with our community, with our friends around us, so they know how we're doing here at St. Antoine community. So I like to remind folks that, we have a weekly memo newsletter option that is sent out through email every week, just to give our folks just general updates, what's happening in the community, be it COVID changes with announcements and regulation changes, or even just, parties and celebrations that were happening, the good times, because there's lots of good still happening in our community. I know the focus is so widespread right now across the state with regards to long-term care settings and what's happening with COVID. But there's so many creative, exciting things that are happening, and we like to share all that through our weekly newsletter, as well as our updates on Facebook. So I just wanted to encourage folks that are listening to feel free to follow us on Facebook. Everything is shared there, and like I said, there's photos and there's announcements about events, and hopefully we'll be getting back on track with that soon. Fundraisers, whatever is happening in our community is shared out there. So between the newsletter, Facebook, and even our website, which we're hoping will be launched officially next week. I've been talking about that for 2 months, that we've been hoping it's going to be updated and going live soon, and I've been told hopefully next week. So feel free to just reach out to me directly if you want to sign up for our newsletter, and you can reach me at msmith@stantantoine.net. I'd be happy to add you to our list, or follow us on Facebook.
Thanks, Melissa. And the Coffee Amp program will continue. Comments and questions can be called in at 766-1240, or email them into me, joe@onesocketradio.com. And we do have a message to get to, and we'll get to it when we come back. Outdoor dining is now being offered at River Falls Restaurant. Come and enjoy your meal with the Blackstone River in the background. You need to make a reservation in order to eat outside at River Falls, so call 401-235-9026 for reservations. And your party needs to be 5 people or less. River Falls Restaurant is ready to provide you with their great burgers, combo meals, seafood, pasta, chicken, veal, and prime rib. Come and enjoy your meal outside at River Falls Restaurant, Market Square, Woonsocket. Call for reservations today, 401-235-9026, 235-9026, River Falls Restaurant.
The Coffee Amp panel is enjoying coffee from Down East Coffee in Pawtucket. They're a 62-year-old family business that roasts all its coffee right here in Rhode Island. Founded originally as Excellent Coffee Company, they provide great coffee to food service establishments throughout New England.
ON Radio.
It is the Coffee Amp program on ON, AM, and FM. Joe Callahan here with Tim Draper and Melissa Smith and John Ward. And as I mentioned, we do have a note that has been written into me, joe@onesocketradio.com, and it's just on 2 different subjects. It just says Joe Biden again with his comments over the weekend with the blacks, and yesterday calling Trump, quote, a fool, an absolute fool. I did not hear that. Did Joe Biden actually say that about Trump yesterday? Did anyone else hear that quote?
Wasn't that about the face mask situation? I think because I don't know. I'm not following Trump on Twitter anymore, but I thought it had something to do with Trump not wearing a face mask and making a comment about Biden wearing one. And
I think you're right. I think that's what it was, his comment Monday about the president not wearing a face mask.
So he called him a fool. Okay.
Yeah.
And the other note, Minnesota police, they've got videos and audio proof. No matter how you slice it, it's either murder or manslaughter.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I have not seen the video. I've only seen
There will be a grand jury in this one, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim.
In a day and age where so many people are so hypersensitive to that, to have 4 police officers stand around and watch that happen, I know there's another side of the story and we don't know it yet, but oh boy, that just doesn't look good at all.
The charge apparently was forgery on a check.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
so
come on.
why all the extreme measures? They said that he was resisting. He was resisting them when he got out of his car.
So what?
I know.
He's on the ground. They got handcuffs on him. You don't need to put a knee on his neck.
Knee on his neck. I know. It's so stupid. They should probably get charged for murder.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what the family wants. Yeah. All right. I'm sure but usually when these things happen with police investigations, somehow it always comes out, well, they were justified. Not always, not 100%, but a lot of times.
There's a presumption, and I forgot the name of it, but Reason.com, which is a libertarian publication, just did a column about it, having to do with the presumption of sort of an immunity because of the job they're doing that prevents many of these cases many police officers to be charged with crimes where there is evidence of a crime. And the instance they mentioned was where about $250,000 disappeared in a raid, and the police were determined to have immunity. But in this case, that's the kind of thing where you may end up, if the officers are charged, it may end up being more the manslaughter rather than the murder, because they were in the process of doing their job, and so they. There's an assumption that they're at a heightened emotional state. There's some fear factors involved, and they just sometimes will do stupid things. So I suspect it'll end up as a manslaughter charge, or a manslaughter conviction. Maybe not a manslaughter charge.
Okay. So speaking of stupid comments, I've asked the last couple of Coffee and panels, Monday and Tuesday, what they thought. And let's get your thoughts. Joe Biden's comments over the weekend about if you're not black, I'm screwing up his comment. If you're not for me, if you're not voting for me, you're not black, or something along those lines. Is this going to hurt him? You're not black enough. That's right. Is this going to hurt him down the road? Going to stick with him?
If Joe Biden, they should keep him in his basement for the entire between now and the election. And that's the best thing they could do for him.
Well, I posted the Babylon Bee story that they created, pure fiction, that said that they're not going to do any more articles about Joe Biden. They're simply going to quote him for what he actually says because he's so good at setting up the humor for them. And he really is. It's almost like he's speaking in tongues. You can't figure out what he's saying from one moment to the next. He doesn't know what he's saying from one moment to the next. And I think it's because his head is filled with ideas, and he's not quite focused on spitting them out in a sequence, which makes it, two things will happen here. It's as I have said before, they're going to try to pick a VP candidate who helps them win an election based on the swing states. But I think it's going to become more and more important, as George Will alluded to yesterday in a column in the Journal, that the VP pick has to be looked at as the person who will become the president within the first term, because Joe Biden just does not seem to have the capacity to handle the job. And it's too bad, but I think that's what's going to happen. So he's going to be measured by who he picks for VP. And right now, if he picks Whitmer, which I projected, she's not doing well. I'm trying to imagine the conversation when she had to go home to confront her husband, who had called the boathouse and said, "Take our boat out. Do you know who I am?"
That's great.
She portrayed it as humor, but I suspect the screaming was at a very high volume.
Melissa, do you think Joe Biden's in trouble with these comments? Is it going to affect them throughout
I
the summer?
can't believe I missed this one over the weekend, to be honest. I had no idea he even said that. But I would say it's a... it depends on the context, but I mean...
It was actually a throw-in line, but he wasn't asked the question about it. He threw it in. It was like, oh, by the way, as though somehow he had thought of this and wanted to make sure he got it in. And I think it was more about saying that if you are black and you're still considering Trump, then you ain't black. And
something like
it really wasn't even a question that was asked of him. And it's really come off badly. And I don't think he's going to get more voters of the black community for Trump. It's just that they won't vote for him.
Okay. Now, also, speaking of stupid stories, and for somehow, I thought, well, maybe this won't go anywhere, but it seems to be taking off just a little bit. Jimmy Fallon has come out and apologized for a comedy skit he did 20 years ago on Saturday Night Live because he did an impression of Chris Rock. So he had the blackface on. Yes.
Is Chris Rock offended?
No.
So far, Chris Rock hasn't said anything.
Then why are we offended?
I don't know. And I don't know why this has resurfaced.
And how else could he portray Chris Rock without blackface? Except to presume that if you are not black, then you cannot do a skit or a parody of someone who is black, unless you're just going to put a big cardboard tag on your head that said, "Make believe I'm Chris Rock."
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
You're saying
I read an article. Go ahead.
Fallon really brought it up? Is that what you were saying?
Me? I'm saying it's silly that it's been brought up from 20 years ago.
Right.
And now he has to
nothing prompting it. Just brought it up on his own and apologized for it.
Yeah.
Oh, he was getting a lot of pressure because of the inconsistency between other people being called out for it and people bringing up the video of him doing it. And I guess the pressure finally got to him where he said, look, I got to apologize.
But it's not. But how come it's not for everybody? Example, Jimmy Kimmel did a impersonation of Karl Malone.
Correct.
In blackface. You don't see him apologizing for it. You don't see people, grabbing the...
Not yet.
You don't see him apologizing yet.
Yet, okay.
And here's the problem. Here's the problem with that. The problem as I see it, and I'm not black, so I'm not saying I have a sense of what members of the black community have gone through and struggles through their life. As examples, the poor guy down in Central Park who was abused by that crazy woman, and this poor victim of the police in Minnesota. I don't have a sense of that. I didn't grow up in that. But there's a clear difference between portraying a specific individual by, if you put makeup on to make yourself look like somebody who doesn't happen to be black, you're changing your image to reflect a specific person. That's not the same as putting blackface on to represent a stereotype that is not a specific individual. That is just, I am portraying somebody in a way that pretty much mocks the stereotype or represents a stereotype in a condescending way. Doing Chris Rock, well, I don't know how else you do Chris Rock if you happen to be Jimmy Fallon. I don't know how you happen to do Karl Malone if you're Jimmy Kimmel. Except you just don't do it, I guess. Maybe it's just that it's no longer going to be allowed and that humor will have barriers to areas that you can go. But that's not the nature of what humor should be.
But the humor was 20 years ago. Why are we apologizing for back then?
Social pressure.
Okay. Well, and to bring up another example, Eddie Murphy in the movie Coming to America portrayed an old Jewish white man.
Right.
In the barbershop, and it was funny.
It was funny.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy did a great Jewish man.
Jewish community didn't come to an uprising and say, "Oh my God, he's got to be tarred and feathered." No, that didn't happen.
No, and it won't.
I just thought I'd bring up another silly thing that Jimmy Fallon actually came out and apologized for his actions of a sketch he probably didn't write. by the way. Probably someone else wrote it for him and said, "Hey, Jimmy, do this. This will be funny." Yeah. And now I never saw this sketch. I don't know. It was kind of a parody of Regis Philbin too, and Chris Rock was on the Regis Philbin show, and that was the premise of the whole thing. I've never seen it, and I don't plan on seeing it. So, all right. So that's the. I love bringing up non-stories here on the Coffee and program. We got.
Well, it's important to someone.
Well, yeah, it is. You're right.
It's important. It's important to NBC executives who now can say that Jimmy has apologized.
Are people asking for him to be fired from the Tonight Show because of it?
There's 330 million people in this country. I'm sure somebody is.
It's got to go. Okay. All right. Time for the forecast right now. And the forecast is being brought to you by Allstate. Today is going to become a sunny day. It's going to be even warmer than yesterday. High temperature will be near 87. Tonight we'll have increasing clouds. Low temperature around 64. Thursday, a mostly cloudy day, high near 82. Thursday night, more clouds and a chance of rain and windy on Thursday night. Low temperature around 65. Friday, chance of showers and thunderstorms, mostly cloudy, high near 78. Saturday, showers likely, possibly thunderstorms as well, and a high temperature near 80 degrees. So today looks like it'll be the best day for the next couple of days. Currently outside the Navigant Credit Union broadcast studio at the corner of Park Ave and Kennedy Street, where the sun is breaking out, we have 70 degrees. If you haven't quoted Allstate lately, it's the perfect time. Now Allstate has new lower auto rates. Call a local Allstate agent and get a quote now. More Coffee and coming your way. Please stay tuned.
I'm here with Kara Benjamin of the Benjamin Insurance Agency. Kara, what's most important to you as a business owner?
The most important thing to me as a business owner is to be there for my customers in the moment of truth. It's not just writing the policy and you're done. It's about being there for my customers when there's an accident, a fire, or even a death. Helping them get through tough moments in life. That's my job as an agent.
You're in good hands with Allstate and Kara and Celeste Benjamin of the Benjamin Insurance Agency, 125 Eddie Dowling Highway, across from Dowling Village in North Smithfield, 765-5000.
Our business is truly a referral business, and we have built it based on our premier service level and commitment to what we do. If you are looking for personalized service with people who care, that would be us.
Do you have a news tip or event that you feel your local daily newspaper should cover? Just email us at notices@woonsocketcall.com. That's notices@woonsocketcall.com. Or call us today at 767-8550. The Call, your daily local news source, where your local news stories are relevant. Again, that number, 767-8550. The email address, notices@woonsocketcall.com. The Call, your daily local news and information source for all things relevant.
Hi, I'm Paul Eno. Ghosts, poltergeists, UFOs, Bigfoot, and weird phenomena that don't even have names yet.
And I'm Ben Eno. Every Sunday from noon to 1 p.m. here on ON 1240, get a whole new look at the weird world we live in on Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno.
Every week we bring you the world's greatest experts and most amazing experiencers, from PhDs to abductees.
And you'll see soon that explaining the paranormal isn't the problem, it's handling the explanations.
Be there.
Coffee in on ON, AM and FM. I'm Joe Callahan. Thanks for joining us this morning. John Ward is here, Melissa Smith is here, and Tim Draper is here from Navigant Credit Union. And Tim, time for a first message from Navigant.
Thank you, Joe. As we kind of return to a little bit of normalcy here, slowly but surely, I'm happy to announce, as we did last week, that the Park Square branch of Navigant Credit Union is back to normal operating procedures, normal operating hours. The exception, of course, is the requirements for social distancing. And right now, a maximum of 6 people in the lobby at any one given time. And you must wear masks. So as I find it very crazy in this mixed-up world that you walk into a bank with a mask on and ask for money, that's really what the situation is at this point in time. You got to wear a mask. But we will ask you at some point, if not twice during your visit, to just pull the mask down a little bit so we can identify who you are, and then we'll ask you to put the mask back on. And this is really for your protection, and it's also for the protection of the staff. You know, everybody kind of takes for granted that the folks are just there. They're going to take care of our members, and they will, and they're going to do their best, and they always have. And I salute them. But you know what? They're nervous, too. They're nervous about their health. They have families, and they don't want to bring any virus is home to them. So we ask our members, who have, by the way, have been just tremendous through this whole pandemic. Our members have been understanding and kind to our staff, and we certainly appreciate that. But we will ask you to come in, wear a mask, and socially distance yourselves. And, sooner or later we'll get back to a little bit more normal. But for right now, this is the rules that are in place. But the branch is open. It's open regular business hours. If you've got any banking you need to do, apply for a loan, open up new accounts, have somebody help you learn online banking or mobile banking, please don't hesitate to go in and see him.
All right, Tim. Very good. What was that, John?
Dave and I were chatting.
See, I got you. All right.
What? During my commercial?
Absolutely.
I was paying attention.
Thank you.
I have an account with you. Don't worry about it.
All right. Well, in terms of COVID-19, it seems like in Rhode Island, according to the governor, we're in a plateau situation. In Massachusetts, though, the COVID-19 cases keep rising, probably because of the city of Boston and Lawrence and Springfield and things like that. So Phase 2 in Rhode Island is planning on going forward, and everything kind of going into Phase 2 starting on Monday. Do you see this as a good thing happening on Monday in Rhode Island? Anyone?
I do. I think it's a good thing. It's about time we start to, like we said, get into a little bit of normalcy. But it's going to be personal decisions for folks. If they don't want to be in big groups, then that's their choice. They shouldn't go out. The whole concept of opening churches on the weekend. May 30th may be the day to open churches, but I'm not sure every church is going to be open yet. I mean, there's 7 pages of directives from the diocese to follow, and that's going to be a bit of a challenge for folks. I think they got to get a comfort level of being ready to accept people, and nobody wants to get anybody sick. Nobody wants to expose anybody. So, I think, yes, it's important we move forward, but it's also important that everybody be responsible for themselves, too. My thoughts.
Yeah, it's a weird space. I often share my experiences as a parent on this show. I don't know how applicable it is to the audience, but
Sure.
We've been out running errands, and this weekend even went as far as I stood in line to go into Marshall's, as an example. Yet I got an invitation last night for my youngest daughter, who's 10, to go to a play date this week after school when she was done with her virtual learning. And I paused, and I at first was saying to myself, I don't think I'm ready for that. I don't know what the parameters are. I also don't know, indoor play versus outdoor play versus if she needs to use the bathroom versus if she's having food in there. Like, where do you start to let your mind travel to? And it's a weird thing to be okay with going to a store, but then to have this pausable moment about allowing kids to start to go to play dates and go to other people's homes. You start thinking about where are they traveling, where are they going to, and their daily routines now. And I'm just in a weird spot about this whole topic because I know the economy is opening up, but on a personal level and just in terms of like the social parameters, I haven't figured out what I'm okay with yet. Does that make sense to anybody? Is anybody else feeling that same weird tug?
Well, yes, because I have a child that's 14, and I've asked her. I said, "Do you and your friends do you want to get together? Like outside somewhere?" And her response is always no. They don't want to do it. I don't know if it's because they're older than yours, Melissa, but they're okay texting each other or they're okay FaceTiming each other. And last week they did their first
Joe,
Zoom
that's
meeting.
because that's what they do when they're together anyway.
They're all together, but they're on their phones. Yes.
That's right. It's funny though. One of them did put together a Zoom meeting for their friends, and there was about maybe 8 of them or so. And I asked my daughter how it went, and they said, "Well, it went good, but we didn't know what to say when we all saw each other."
I'll provide you one idea for her to share later on tonight. My oldest daughter set up similarly like a Zoom call, and they all logged into Netflix at the same time. I guess there's an option to watch a movie together. And I had to laugh out loud. I walked downstairs to our basement to see kind of how it looked, like what was the big excitement about this plan that they had, and it literally was a computer screen in front of her, and they're all just watching their own movie from their house. And I thought, well, that doesn't seem very fun. But when I asked her how it went, she said, "Oh, it was awesome." And I thought, well, how is it awesome? You're just together on a Zoom call and watching your own TVs from your own home. There's no interaction, but to them, they're finding positives in weird ways, and I don't know. It's this whole, I guess, experience has just been out of the box thinking anyways, but it's just, I mean, the norm seems very odd right now, and whatever the kids find joy in, I guess, is what you have to let them find and figure out on their own.
Were they commenting on the movie, Melissa, to each other?
She said yes. She said they were laughing at the same parts, and then they would sidebar about a few things. Oh, that boy is cute, or oh, whatever. So I guess there was a little interacting, but I just thought, okay, neat. I guess that Netflix is offering this option to stream movies together if you have access to it. But I don't know. For me, as an outsider watching them, I just thought it looked boring. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they took a pause and popped popcorn at the same time, came back to the screen again. So I guess they were finding ways to, I don't know, make the best of it.
That's a great idea, though. All right. Thoughts on that, Tim? Did you have something else?
Well, this is John. Melissa, I was going to say that on the topic of Netflix, finally latched on to a show that my wife and I are watching. Binge watched one day over the weekend, but have continued to watch, and it's an older one on Netflix called Bloodline.
Yes, John, that one's good.
It is good.
It's so good.
It is
it's
good.
Another little creepy element, but it's really good.
Well put together, yes.
Yes, that's in Key West, right? Is that the show that was in Key West?
Yes.
Yes,
With Sissy
very
Spacek.
good. Very good show, you guys. You should check that one out.
Bloodlines, huh?
Bloodline.
Good for you, John. I'm very happy to hear that. And now I'm realizing I might actually be portrayed as watching a lot of TV. I just, if I.
Well, I have to tell you, I often wonder when I hear about all these, my family sometimes will be texting each other, and we have this group text where everybody's on it, and they talk about all these shows that they binge watch, and I think, God, I don't watch anywhere near that much television compared to what these people do. How do they have time to live a life?
I will say, in my defense, and similar probably to some of those folks that you're referencing, I can't make it through a movie anymore. So from the time that our kids were young, like Bloodline came out years ago.
Yeah,
and
about 2017, I think.
We don't have, our lives surround their sports schedules or whatever. It's rare that we even can go out for a date. My husband works crazy hours. So, like, if I have a chance to be on the couch, I can't make it through a 2-3 hour movie anymore. So shows are sort of that happy medium of whether they're 30 minutes or an hour, I can watch it. When I start to feel like I'm dozing off, you shut it down for the night. But I don't feel like I'm missing out on a full movie. So it sort of fills that void differently for us,
Well,
okay.
That one's a good one.
Well, yeah. Great.
And Joe, from my part on dealing with this whole situation with socialization, not having kids at home, I think we're gonna get a sign ordered that's just gonna say the Hermitage.
Put it over your
Although we do have appropriately socially distanced little block parties that we've now had 2 of.
Okay.
That don't often happen when you're busy living your lives and going off to where you go off to, because you just go places. You don't see your neighbors that much. And so I've seen my neighbors more than I've seen my neighbors in the last 6 weeks. I've seen my neighbors more than I have in the last 10 years, because it just sort of forces you to be in the same place much more time. And you're not off going away for the weekend or going out to a restaurant or going here, there, or anywhere. And so you light a fire, you sit around, every family is off in their own little corner, and yet you're close enough to be able to have conversation, bring your own refreshments, and enjoy yourself. So it can happen safely.
And with the warm weather, you'll probably see a lot more of them.
Yes. Matter of fact, the last one ended in a discussion of before this is over, getting into seeing about getting an entire block involved in a block party kind of thing. Again, safely distanced, and everybody sort of being in their own space, but getting together, something that the street has not done to this point.
That's the best part about it. It feels, when my kids ask about what childhood was like for me, and of course I'm that old lady that references all the things that we used to do that they don't do today, and I said that to them this week. I'm like, this feels like the 80s to me. Like everything is slowed down. People are back out on the street. There's bike riding happening. There's bonfires and gatherings with neighbors. I'm with you. We rarely see our neighbors anymore. We've been able to connect with them again. It's nice. It's a big slowdown. So if there's something to kind of focus on the positive during this time, I would say that would be it. Reconnecting with folks and slowing down a bit.
Yep. All right. We're going to take another break here in the Coffee and program. So, Tim, time for a second message from Navigant Credit Union.
You know, Joe, I'm looking out the window at this beautiful day outside, and I know that there's a lot of folks out there looking at houses and thinking about, you know what, I either want to spruce my house up or it's time for us to move to some either upsize or downsize, whatever that might be. But Navigant Credit Union has a loan for you that you can, you can either get into your new house or you can get rid of your dog, in my case. Whatever you need to do, Navigant Credit Union has the solution for you, and we hope that you come on in and talk to our folks at the Park Square branch. Amanda and her team are fantastic, and we would like it if you would give them a call or stop by, because you can do that now, and talk to them about the options that you have for getting into a new house. Rates are low, folks. Not going to be low forever, but they're low now. So if you're thinking about refinancing or you're thinking about moving, now's a great time to do it. So give us a call, 233-4700. Or visit us at navigantcu.org.
Very good, Tim. More of the Coffee and program is coming your way, so please don't go anywhere.
Ed Carew here of the Carew Investment Group, 68 Cumberland Street in Woonsocket. Our telephone number is 765-8880. In business, you don't last long if you don't know what you're doing. And if that's the case, I must know a thing or two. I've been in the investing business since 1987, helping people just like you with their investments. At the Carew Investment Group, we employ a conservative approach to client portfolios by using only the best quality companies available, many of which pay a quarterly dividend. We look for opportunities that we expect will go up in value, not every day, but over time. We take our responsibilities seriously and always place our client needs first in any investment decision. If you want to know more or would like a free portfolio review of your current holdings, call Ed at 765-8880. Securities offered through Bolton Global Capital, member FINRA, NSIPC, and advisory services offered through Bolton Global Asset Management, a registered investment advisor.
Just a reminder from your friends at ON Radio. ON Cares.
And it's the Coffee and program on ON, AM, and FM. Thanks for joining us. This is Joe Callahan here with Melissa Smith, Tim Draper, and John Ward. And I want everyone's opinion on this one as well. The president, over the last couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, has been tweeting out on occasion how mail-in ballots is the worst thing ever. According to him, he says it's rife with corruption if we allow mail-in ballots, but it looks like it's going to happen. Is it as bad as the president makes it out to be? John, we'll start with you.
No.
Not as bad as the president makes it out to be.
It's not as bad as the president makes it out to be. There are circumstances that people, I'm sure, will cheat, but it is not something that will overwhelm the system with so much corruption that the result will be skewed from the reality of what people voted. Although I still don't understand all of this push for mail ballots. I understand the current primaries and pushing for mail ballots because of the need to keep a safe distance. However, and I'll quickly do a little sidebar, I did see the picture of the line at Alley's Donuts because people were complaining about the fact that this quarter-of-mile-long line of people 6 feet apart was allowed to do that for hours on end, and yet students can't be allowed to graduate and stand in line to collect a diploma. It's an interesting phenomenon. And the same thing applies to elections. By the time we get to November, they're going to be probably putting shields between you and the person that's at the polling location. There may be masks involved, and there will be protections at the individual polling locations for you. And so the expectation is that if you can go pick up a dozen donuts, at least in my mind, if you can go pick up a dozen donuts and wait in line to do it, then certainly by November we should have the capacity to be able to deal with an election process. So the necessity for mail-in ballots certainly can be diminished. However, I think the politicians love the idea of mail-in ballots because it is so incumbent preferenced benefit that because the people who would get upset and vote in the opposition, I think tend not to be motivated to the extent that they would go bother to get a mail-in ballot. So it favors the incumbent significantly. I don't know. That's why I don't know why Trump is objecting to it so much.
Can I butt in here, Joe?
Sure, Dave.
Yeah. We're coming up on a presidential preference primary.
Yes.
The first election I could have, but didn't vote in
many
decades.
Just go to the middle school. You can vote.
That's what I'm going to do. But
Me too.
remember they sent out the mail ballots?
Yes.
And I looked and I looked and I scoured it through and I checked and I looked and I looked. There is nothing on that to allow for disaffiliation immediately after voting.
No, it was an application, and you would get the ballot, and then you would be in a party. But they have created a disaffiliation place online now. So once you did vote...
They didn't mention it. It wasn't in the literature I saw.
I had heard the Secretary of State mention it, that you will be able to disaffiliate online. Yes, that is the problem. And personally, that's why I took mine. And I placed it securely in the recycling bin, and I'll intend to be going to vote at the middle school.
There you go.
In June.
I'll join you.
So, with a respectable distance between us.
So it'll almost be like going to Navigant Credit Union, John. You'll have to go. There'll be a shield up. You'll have to produce your license, right, and then pull your mask down to prove it's you, so then you can go vote. Do you see that happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And why not?
All right. Tim and Melissa, the mail-in ballots, is it the scourge of society like Trump says it is, or is it, you okay with it? Can't hear Tim. Try it again,
How
Tim.
about Dave? Dave,
there you are.
Hear me?
Okay.
Hello. There, okay. So for the conspiracy theorists out there, just to point this out, we got our stack of mail-in ballot request forms in the mail a few weeks back, and one of them was addressed to my daughter, Rebecca Draper, who has not been Rebecca Draper now for several years and has not lived in Rhode Island for several years. So I look at that and I go, okay, her license is Massachusetts. She's lived in Massachusetts for a long time now. She did call the Secretary of State and cancel her license, or the DMV cancel her license in Rhode Island. So why is the state of Rhode Island sending her? And we've been through an election before, so why is all of a sudden the state of Rhode Island putting her on the rolls again?
And Tim, I have an answer for that I should share, because in fact the states are supposed to share information about voters so that if somebody does move to another state and register to vote there, it's supposed to notify the state they're coming from. Because as part of your registration, I believe it asks you what state you've come from in order to register. My son did the same thing. He votes in Virginia. He is still on the ballot. However, on the mail-in applications that they sent out, the instruction was that if the envelope's addressed to a person who doesn't live there any longer and is not voting, then you should mark the envelope as such and return it. And so I marked the envelope and put it in the mail, addressee no longer lives here, and I put it back in the mailbox, and it would go back to the Secretary of State's office, and in short order, his name should be removed from the voting rolls. It hasn't yet, because I checked the list of eligible voters for this presidential primary, and his name is on it. But I expect by the November election to be able to check and find that it's gone.
Is there a way to tell, John, if somebody's actually voted?
Oh, yes. No, you can go to the local board of
canvassers. Is that public record?
If you want to find out if someone you know that's died has voted, you go to the local board of canvassers, and the record is a public record. You can, every time someone votes, it indicates that they showed up to vote. It doesn't say anything else about them, but it'll indicate whether they showed up to vote. And people have done that, and that's part of the problem. They just convicted somebody somewhere in the country who voted, because he had the same name as his father. So he voted twice. He voted under his father's name. He voted under his own name. And that can happen. It's just one of those things that things can go wrong. But I don't think it ever happens to the extent that it will actually sway an election, especially at the national level. I mean, for instance, if you could stuff the ballot with thousands of ballots voting for Trump in a mail-in election process in November, and it wouldn't make one bit of difference because whoever the Democrat is going to win by such a wide majority that that it becomes meaningless.
Yeah. Melissa, will you use a mail-in ballot, or do you think you'll go stand in line?
I'm going to go stand in line. I think, and maybe you guys have some better insight into this. I guess I laugh all the time, even just talking about paper ballots. I mean, in the fact that we have technology surrounding us, how we haven't figured out the right technology. We have the right technology to roll out an app for COVID tracking, as an example, and expedite that process really quickly. But we haven't figured out how to do like collection of data through an electronic option yet that works. I have to laugh.
And is secure.
And that is secure, like how we haven't figured that option out yet. But I plan to go in line. I see no problem with it. I don't going back to your comment earlier about the graduation versus Allie's Donuts, that comparison. I was in Lowe's Garden Center the other day, and I couldn't get over how overpopulated the lines are. And I thought the same thing, and I thought, oh, my God, we're outdoors, and we're standing shoulder to shoulder fighting for flowers. Well, I wasn't. I gave up and I left. But people were fighting for flowers, and I thought, how can they not have a graduation? How can they not figure out a way to allow these folks to, one at a time go up to a stage and collect their diploma? But so I think it's getting out of control. But yes, I plan to go in person and.
Well, the comparisons I think are killing the government. Actually, I have an appointment for a haircut on Saturday before June 1st. Why? Because I have a friend who is a barber in Massachusetts, and so I'll be going to visit him using an appointment because I'm tired of waiting, and I'm not waiting until June. So I'll get my hair cut, and then when my barber is open again and doing business, I'll go back to him. But it's you can have 50% of the seats taken in a restaurant starting in June, but only 25% in the church. Huh? Mm-hmm. What am I missing here?
I know.
They're not consistent, and that's where this all becomes an overreaction. Their precautions are nice, but I don't think they properly measure how they compare one group to another group. And of course, as I said, this high school graduation thing is so far out of hand that just give them a graduation ceremony instead of this virtual stuff.
John,
yes,
we have to protect the children, and I'm sure that's what they're thinking. They're just kids. They need protection.
Right.
I'm just saying that.
All right, you guys, you're having too much fun. Dave's going to get in on this, don't you?
Go.
Couple more.
Go, Dave. Go.
Of course we can figure out how to do it, but can we figure out how to do it? And will they do what we tell them? Listen, I was in on conversations about high school graduations with authorities, and I can tell you right now, their problem is, we know how to do this, but the kids won't do what we tell them. It's graduation day. Has anybody been 18 in graduation? You haven't seen your friends in 2 months. You're going to stop them? How are you going to stop them from getting out of a car and hugging somebody?
All you have to do is rent 300 shock collars, and as soon as you see them go, you just shock
you're
them.
Right, John. You're having fun with it. But that's the real problem they have.
I know that.
That they could come up with a fine thing, just follow the rules, but they could not convince themselves that the students now leaving the school would follow the rules.
And what percentage of people under the age of 20 have encountered significant physical harm from COVID-19?
Well, that means nothing. It's
very low.
What percentage of school districts will be sued to within an inch of their existence by lawyers who will just hire themselves out to sue because parents think they were irresponsible?
You're right.
All right.
You can't win when you're in their position. You just can't win.
I know. I had one of those situations last night discussing a construction issue with the Lincoln High School. And I saw something, and I made the point of saying, gee, that looks dangerous. And immediately, one of the guys that works in construction that's on the committee with me said, we have to approve this. He just made a mention of how it looks dangerous, and therefore anybody that would bump into it in the future would sue us for this record.
Right.
Because he's identified it as a potential hazard.
Right.
Done. Approve it. $3,000 to move something and change the window out.
My point is, as I shut the microphone off, is that it ain't easy being in charge of stuff. And so we can all sit around, and it's our prerogative to criticize our leaders if we don't care for their work or their decisions. It's very easy to criticize, very difficult.
Okay, I'm going to give you a quick one. It's going to take only about 30 seconds. You want to know how COVID-19 affects the world? Last night, after construction has been going on for close to 15 months at Lincoln High School, we learned through a letter from the unions that we are now required to do certain things to comply with COVID-19 issues at the work location that we haven't done for the last 15 months, but we now have to do from now into the future. And the estimated cost for compliance per month right now is $30,000. And there's 10 months left in the project, which means the project now has had
more than
added
$250,000 over.
$300,000 to it. Now, well, don't get me wrong. I've already emailed Rhode Island Emergency Management to ask if this added cost to the project will be something that's reimbursable under the federal program for funding COVID-19 related costs. And I'm expecting them to get back to me today and give me an answer, by the way, the funny thing about Rhode Island Emergency Management is they answer nothing in writing. When you ask a question in writing by email, they call you back. So when they call me back, I will be writing a confirming email to them confirming our conversation so I have a record of it and have them on record. But the fact is, yeah, this reaction is killing us.
All right. On that note, we've come to the end of the program, so we thank you for listening in as we solve all the world's problems here on the Coffee and program. Melissa Smith, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Tim Draper, thanks for joining us today as well.
Thanks, everybody. It's a beautiful day. Get out